Okay, so when supply changes, we can look at the supply curve. It goes up, right? Law of supply. When quantity supply changes only, we go from one point on the same curve to another point on the same curve, and I've talked about this similar thing in another one. But when supply changes, what it means is we have the same curve, but it shifts. The entire curve moves. Basically, replace the function, put a new one, which is shifted from the original position. Why? Because at the same price, this is price, okay? This is quantity. I will do a price line. So, for example, let's see, this is $3 or whatever. Free of a currency, 3 units of the currency. Then the intersection is quantity of, I don't know, 10 units for price 3. When our supply changes, that means our entire curve moves horizontally. For each point, it will be, for example, right or left. It will be parallel to the original curve. I drew a line so it's easy to shift it. So it just shifts like this, okay? And that means for the same price, we get a higher quantity. In this case, when we shift to the right, supply went up. So we have 15 in quantity, okay? When it shifts left, and it cannot shift to both sides at once. It's always either shifting right or left, right? So when it shifts left, it's the same thing, just goes down, to the left, parallel. Each point is a certain horizontal distance from the corresponding horizontal point from that initial curve from which it shifted. So for this one, we have a lower quantity than the original one. Now we have like 3. Okay, so a change in supply is that the entire curve shifts. Now we have determinants for change in supply. So I'll just quickly go over them. So there's not necessarily that many, but I'll go over the main 4. Okay, so the number 1 we might talk about is supplier expectations of future price. So now, expectation of future price. When the supplier supplies at a certain price now, and he expects that the price will go up in the future, the supply will go down now. Okay, we're always talking about now. What he does now, when he expects something for the future, it's not that supply will go up in the future. Yeah, but I'm talking of what's going to happen right now. So when the supplier expects the prices will go up, he saves up those that production. For now, but doesn't do that much supply, so now the supply will go down. But if he just to sell it for that higher price later, right? But when he expects the prices will go down in the future, he will start to supply more now because he knows he can sell for higher prices now before the future comes where he expects those lower prices. Second big factor is cost of production. Okay, so cost of production. So the higher the cost of production, the lesser the supply. If the cost of production goes down, the supply will go up. Okay, so when it's easier and cheaper for that person to produce, supply will be higher. When it's expensive, it becomes more expensive. Okay, so it's more about the changing cost of cost of production. So when the expenses to produce go down, he will produce more. When the expenses of producing will go up, he will start the supply will be less. So yeah, the producer will produce less, and the supply will go down, moving the supply curve to the left. Third factor we might talk about is number of suppliers. It's just like number of consumers with demand. Okay, the more suppliers, the more supply. Okay, so number of suppliers. We have 2 times more suppliers. There will be 2 times more quantity. There will be 2 times more supply. Okay. So when the number of suppliers goes up, the supply goes up. When there's less suppliers, the supply goes down. Natural phenomenon. And then the last one we will wrap it up with is opportunity costs. So opportunity cost is the cost of doing this instead of that. Okay, that means, for example, one can be creating, selling product A, but it is at the expense of not spending this same time producing some other product B. And now the question is, will I make more money if I was doing B instead of this A that I'm doing? So that's the opportunity cost, okay? I'm giving up on doing B because I'm doing A, okay? It's more like the cost of the time that could be better or worse spent. So the higher the opportunity costs, okay, the more it costs that person to produce it in terms of time wasted when he could have been doing something else. The lower the supply will be, but he'll really be willing to do it when he knows that other ways of spending his time would not be as profitable. So when the opportunity cost is low, that means if he was doing something else, he would not earn that much for the same work, then the supply will be high. Okay, so when he knows that what he's doing is really productive and is the good thing to do, and he's not wasting his time when he could have been doing something else, could have been supplying some other good or product, then the supply will be high because he knows that what he's doing is the right thing for his profit. But if the opportunity costs are high, he's like, I could have been doing something else, and so I'm not really don't have that much courage to supply a lot, and so the supply will be down in that case.